And we're live. Thank you guys so much. So many people watching this. And it surprises me too how many people watch this and everything else. Thank you guys for sharing it out. Thank you guys for getting the word out. I'm just trying to break down for the people of Kentucky the things you should be supporting, the things you shouldn't be supporting. If you're for personal liberty, personal rights, people being free from their government, people being left alone as long as they don't hurt people. And by that, I mean hurt specific people. You can't just say your actions are hurting society as a whole. In this country, for you to be hurting people, you have to name a specific victim or victims by name. Otherwise, there isn't a victim. You can't just make up one. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and sharing. Today, I have on my Impeach Bashir hoodie. You can pick up t-shirts online or in the store if you want to get your own Impeach Bashir item as well. I'm also drinking my brewed coffee here. So I'm going to roll through some of the updates for the bills and everything else and go from there. So here we go. Okay, first to touch again, and I know we talked yesterday about it, is HB 208. That is Representative Huff's bill, HB 208. That is the bad school bill that some people are trying to hide behind and pretend it doesn't say exactly what it says it says. It does say what it says, and it allows the schools of Kentucky to remain NTI only if they so choose. And by if they choose, I mean the school chooses. HB 208. Now, what we saw some action on the floor about HB 208 yesterday. What we saw there was some amendments were pulled off the bill. I think we're going to see those amendments pulled off, and we'll see some new amendments proposed to really fix what's going on. I'm informed that the amount of calls and backlash this bill is getting is monumental, and the House reps and senators are recognizing that, and they want to get this fixed. And so what they're trying to do is get out there as soon as they can and kind of get ahead of this. They'll be cutting up some new amendments to kind of help fix that. So HB 208, bad bill, but we might be seeing some amendments to help fix it here coming up soon. I hope we do. There was, like I said, there's some that were good amendments that were pulled off the bill yesterday on the floor, and that leads me to think that we're going to see a better, more improved amendment proposed. I believe they're out of session today, but probably proposed Monday or Tuesday to fix the bill. So that's HB 208. Right now, if you're calling, and I put the number there in the description, if you're calling LRC, call them to this. These are the things you need to tell them, tell your reps about. So don't support HB 208, Huff's bill. It allows schools to remain NTI for indefinitely. The next bill to support in this case would be SB 213. That is a bill by Senator Southworth that would end immediately the COVID emergency. As we're seeing even in the federal government, I believe, Biden came out saying that this COVID thing, we're going to be continuing it for another year, no matter what, yada, yada, yada. And there's even somebody in the quoted article I was reading that said, oh, we'll be wearing masks and worrying about this for 10 years even. The bottom line is that we have a choice in this country of how you want to respond. At this point, we're about a year in. Everybody knows COVID exists. They know what the risks are. They know what the comorbidities are. We've seen the data. We've seen tons of things. At this point, if you want to take a risk, you take a risk. And the arguments to say that we still need the state of emergency are quite frankly, they're really lacking. Because the arguments always were, well, first we needed to maybe 2 weeks to flatten the curve because we're worried about overrunning the hospital systems. Well, as we pointed out the other day, first, hospitals naturally need to run close to capacity. They are a business, right? So for an example, I, at my coffee shop, don't staff just a bunch of as much staff as I can. What I do is I sit there and I try to staff the exact right amount of staff for the amount of customers I think I'm going to have. And so basically, if that's the case, that I'm not expecting a big swell, I won't be staffed out. Well, what happens is if we suddenly get busy and busier and busier and busier, we put more staff in. That's the same thing the hospitals do. And now they've gotten to a point where the hospitals are about 66, 67% full. If people don't start getting sick again, these hospitals are going to go out of business. But we can't have a situation here where the hospitals being 66% full, that doesn't show anywhere close to the overrunning of the hospital systems that we were supposedly so worried about with the mandates in the first place. So why are we doing this? Well, the next argument is as well because you're going to kill grandma, okay? Well, at the end of the day, let's first phrase this out, all right? As I said once again, in this country, my rights stop where your rights start. I have a right to life, liberty, and property. You do not have a right to my life, liberty, or property. Now, the argument on the other side is as well, if you go out and get sick, you're going to get grandma sick, you're killing people, you're overwhelming the healthcare system. Well, as we already covered, the healthcare system isn't being overrun here in Kentucky, so that's not an argument anymore. So the other concern is, well, you're spreading it to people who are at risk because you might cross paths. Here's the thing, once again, if you cannot name me a specific victim, if I was to go to court and you cannot put a specific person on the other side to be charging me with something, you cannot say I'm damaging someone else's life, liberty, and property. It has to be specific. And once again, the argument would be is, well, why is grandma going to the grocery store if they're susceptible to COVID? Why isn't she getting her groceries delivered? Why isn't she doing curbside? Why is it, the argument goes on, and there is clearly far more people who are not susceptible heavily to dying from COVID than there are people who are. So, SB 213 would end the state of emergency for COVID in the state of Kentucky, not allowing it to be called again as a state of emergency, neutralizing a lot of Beshear's orders and the way he's kind of attacking things. It really helps deal with that. So you want to call your reps when you call and tell them do not support 208. Tell them to support SB 213. Tell them to co-sponsor it. Tell them to get that bill to the floor and get it voted right here. If the Kentucky legislator is serious about reining in the governor and is serious about helping Kentucky get through COVID as far as getting through the effects of all these lockdowns of unemployment, of people losing their jobs, people killing themselves, overdoses, if we have looked at that and said enough is enough, we know the data, we need to get support out there for SB 213 to end the lockdowns here in Kentucky. Next, HB 360. Now, this one's a little selfish of me to support, I'm not going to lie. What HB 360 does is it returns licenses to businesses that were lost due to the COVID mandates. So, more than just restaurants, what you had going on, this is part of the problem with the state issuing licensure for all these different things. So, here with the restaurants, you have, like us, who had our ABC license taken. We still have a administrative hearing coming up. And for those who don't know what an administrative hearing means, it means we're in front of their people who are hearing our case. And so, we're in front of their people who are hearing our case. And so it's not exactly like we're in front of an impartial jury or an impartial judge. They want to take away our ABC license. They probably will at the administrative hearing. We hope to have some arguments that they can't. We have some other ways to move forward on it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they take it away. Now, if HB 360 passed, though, we would immediately get back our liquor license, but more importantly, a lot of other businesses who have had their licenses taken. For an example, I know of a dealership here in Lexington that had a scheduled hearing. It ended up getting canceled after they kind of approached it a little bit, that had a hearing to get their dealership license taken away for masking violations. So what you're talking about is, and keep in mind too, masking violations, so a customer comes in not wearing a mask, you can't, and this is what's so weird about the mask violation. So we've gotten like 3 or 4 citations for mask violations that have been dismissed. The reason why is because you can't actually prove a mask violation. It's impossible. Because we as a business, when a person comes in, we just have to say, hey, you got to wear a mask unless you have a medical exemption. If the person responds and says, I have a medical exemption, we have to say, okay, and then drop it at that. Now, what they're trying to argue is that you can make it a reasonable accommodation at curbside or to go. But if I just tell whoever it is that, no, we don't do that, then I can't make that reasonable accommodation. And then in that turn, you have to dismiss the mass citation, which they have for us, the 3 or 4 times that we've gotten cited for it, because my staff do wear masks when they work, but I can't, my customers come in, and if they're not wearing one, I just assume they have a medical condition, and we have signs up that says we require a mask unless you have a medical condition. If you're not wearing one, we assume you don't. You have one. And so what you have is these people getting cited and taking the cases to get their dealer's licenses taken away, or their business licenses taken away, or what have you, and you can't even prove they actually did anything because of the way the orders are wrote and the way the current laws, the ADA laws and the HIPAA laws that we have on record currently puts a business in a situation where they literally are being cited in situations where they can't enforce because they're not allowed to, but yet in turn, they face being taken to administrative hearings or court to lose their entire business. So there's a dealership here in Lexington that was having a hearing to get their dealer's license taken away for a masking violation. That's their entire business. So, and of course, they probably have millions invested into this business. So you're talking an individual who's invested millions into their business, facing it getting taken away on a masking violation that's done in front of an administrative hearing, or maybe just in front of a judge to find out if that's the case. That has to stop, and we've got to make sure everybody gets their licenses returned. So the support for HB 360 would return licenses to businesses. And so if you're making your legislative calls, if you're one of those people who are being diligent in their calls and their emails, so far it is down with 208, up with SB 213, up with HB 360, and now we'll get to the fourth bill I want to talk about, SB 229. This one needs to be destroyed right here. I do not know what Republican Paul Hornback, the sponsor on this bill, was thinking. SB 229 is a red flag law. That's right. Paul Hornback decided to put forward a red flag law. Now, for those who don't know what a red flag law means, it's a flag. It means that, so first, remember when you look at the Constitution, it is not a document stating what rights we exactly have. Is a document that states what the government can't infringe upon. Very specific. And so SB 229 is a red flag law. Red flag laws allow courts without a jury to decide to take away your Second Amendment rights. First off, I'm when it comes to gun laws, I'm really, really confused on how we've gone so far down the road of not realizing, okay, it is a right. It's a Second Amendment right. If you don't like it, okay, you don't like it. You have to change the Constitution then. Don't sit there, keep passing these red flag laws. And I do not know how these are constitutional, but of course, we can't really rely on the courts anymore. As you know, most of the law is just interpretation. But when it comes to SB 229, it's a red flag law that allows the police with a court order, not done in front of a jury, to take away a person's firearms. Now, when Paul Hornback introduced this bill, his defense for it is, well, with everything going on with COVID and all the mental issues everyone's having, I think it's best if we take away people's guns. What? So let me get this straight. So COVID happens. Your governor's response is to destroy people's livelihoods, causing a massive spike in suicide, overdose, all these other mental health issues that come from just being, depressed. And your response is not to impeach the governor. Your response is not to pass laws that end the COVID emergency. Your response is not to stop these policies causing these issues. Instead, Paul Hornback, who, by the way, is in Shelby County up for re-election in 2022, write that down. Instead, your response is SB 229, a red flag law to say, well, we need this because people might, we can't trust people with their guns because we are creating so many issues in their lives. What? That doesn't make any sense at all. Not only that, but you can't sit there and tell me, yes, let me tell you what, I'm a red-blooded American. I'm a good old-fashioned Republican. And then put forward a red flag law under the guise of, we've got all these issues that your governor is creating, and my best way to deal with that is to take away your guns. And that's ridiculous. So SB 229, a red flag law by Paul Hornback, Senator Hornback. That one needs to go down. So real quick on the bill. So 208, bad, done by Representative Huff. SB 213, done by Adrian Southworth, good. HB 360, I don't know who actually put that one forward. Returns licenses to businesses, good. SB 229, bad. Paul Hornback did that one. And that is a red flag law to take away your guns. Which, once again, you can have all your beliefs in the world about guns. You can sit there and say, hey, I hate guns. I think guns are terrible. I think they kill people. I think they do terrible, terrible things. And we can have that debate. You're going to lose, but we can have that debate all you want. However, it doesn't change the fact that the Second Amendment exists, and you have to change the amendment if you want to keep writing these laws, and there's a process to do that. And if you're not doing that process, on its face, gun laws can't exist because they infringe upon your Second Amendment right. You have to change the right before you can pass the gun laws. That is my official belief on it. And, well, personally, I wouldn't change the Second Amendment, but that is my belief on it when it comes to these gun laws, is we need to be addressing them in that way and saying, listen, like guns, don't like guns, doesn't matter. This isn't how you do it. And the ends never justify the ends never justify the means. And in this case, that's what we're seeing a lot, of course, in government, in law, and in the behavior of our states and federal government, is they keep saying, well, in the ends, look, we're saving people's lives, so it doesn't matter if we end up throwing you into a locked room where you can never leave, we're justifying it. And so it's just quite ridiculous. So, and then additionally here on impeachment. So yesterday, the Impeachment House Committee had a meeting. They heard some testimony. It was about what we already knew. It was going to happen. It was about Goforth, whose impeachment, I believe, was dismissed last night or will be dismissed. Whoever filed it is just silly and kind of stupid. Not because Goforth deserves to be impeached or not, and I think that's a debate to have. Of curiosity to have, and we can go back and forth on that. Personally, it just doesn't seem like a very nice guy to me. But that aside, you cannot impeach a legislator through citizens impeachment like you can the governor, like what we filed for the governor. A quick read of the Constitution of Kentucky would tell you that. I don't know who advised them to file it. It was stupid. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what they weren't paying attention to. As soon as they filed it, everyone I know and all of us were like, why'd they do that? You can't even impeach a legislator that way. That doesn't make any sense at all. But they didn't really talk about what's going on with the governor's impeachment. And I think that's because, I was feeling real positive about it last week. I'm not feeling as positive that they're going to move forward with it. Because I think they're dragging it out longer in hopes that people don't become as outraged. Here's the thing. So let's talk about why they wouldn't impeach and why they would. Okay. So if this was a perfect world, we all know the governor broke the law. Not even the governor says he didn't break the law. He did. His argument is that it was a good faith error that just happens from time to time. Now, the evidence suggests otherwise, that it wasn't a good faith error. But remember, as I say this, the governor himself's defense of these accusations of impeachment is not, I didn't do it or I didn't break the law. It is literally, things happen. It's on accident. That is his actual defense. So if you want to go on and say, the governor didn't break the law, listen, you need to tell the governor that he didn't break the law because he doesn't know he didn't break the law. He just thinks he shouldn't be impeached for it. So whether or not he broke the law to the side. So knowing that he knowingly infringed on First Amendment rights and he broke the law and he admits he broke the law, but he gets to get away with it because he's a governor and he can make good faith errors, putting that to the side. So in a perfect world, he broke the law. He knows he did. He'd be impeached. Done. End of story. Partisanship, politics, nothing else would ever be a part of it. However, that's not the world we will live in. We know that. And we know that because of what we're seeing, what we've seen federally, what we're seeing all around. We know that that is just not how it works. So Instead, you had to look at impeachment as a political proposition because that is how they're looking at it, okay? Because, once again, if it's just on the facts of the case, he'd be impeached. We already know this. I know that the impeachment committee already knows this. They've already said, I mean, Allison Ball, the state treasurer, has already said he broke the law. The Sixth Circuit Court has said he broke the law. The governor himself has said he broke the law. It was just a whoopsies, okay? So, why wouldn't they impeach him? Well, there's only a couple reasons why not to. The first and foremost you had to understand is that in the long run game of politics, they think not impeaching him will cause the Republicans to retain control of the government for a longer amount of time. I have heard rumors that possibly part of the reason why as well is because Mitch McConnell wants to step down from as a senator. And the reason why he doesn't, he wants to step down as a senator, but he isn't ready to do it yet. And so the concern is that if the governor's impeached right now, in November of this year, there would be a special election to elect the new governor that would serve then until 2024, where in 2023 there would be the election for the governor to another governor, right? So what would happen is the governor would be impeached, and then in November, he would be impeached. Lieutenant Governor Coleman would take over as governor until the special election in November, and then at that point, whoever wins that election would be governor until the regularly scheduled governor election of 23, that then he would take office in 24. So what I've heard is that McConnell is not ready to step down yet, and that if the governor's replaced now, they are only guaranteed, because we all know the next governor after Beshear will be a Republican. We all know that. I don't think that's really up for debate. We all know that's who it's going to be. It's going to be a Republican. The Democrats don't have a shot in heck of it. So what they're thinking is that, okay, in 24, when the Republican takes over, this is just what I've heard. I have no evidence of this. This is just hearsay. Is that McConnell wants to step down, and then that governor will get to pick. The way it works is that governor picks the replacement. Now, what I've heard is that if he goes impeached now, McConnell will have a shorter window to for surely be able to step down and have a Republican replacement appointed. And if that's the case, then McConnell could be pushing against it for that reason. I've just heard that, but who knows? Their other political reason is in 2022. So, and this is going to seem like real off base. So, for an example, the way Castro was able to hold together Cuba for so long is because he painted America as a common enemy. And knowing America's not going anywhere, knowing that enemy will always be there, he's able to blame America for everything keeping Cuba together. In much the same thought process, the Republicans' leadership of Kentucky believes that if they keep Beshear in office, they will be able to have a common enemy that will keep A, the party together, and B, be able to get people out to the polls to vote for Republicans using Beshear as a common enemy for them to coalesce around. There's a point there. Now, my argument back to leadership is you're assuming that you'll get to be the one who gets voted in again in 2022, when one would say, I think, the Republicans, especially in Kentucky, are pretty fed up, and there might be a lot of turnover. So you're really taking a huge step in believing that. Now, because of this, they would not want him impeached, so they have that common enemy. Because what happens? Well, what happens if there's a Republican that replaces him this year? Well, what happens is now the Republicans have complete control over the legislative, executive branch. They certainly don't have control of their judicial branch, but they have control over those too. And now every problem in Kentucky can start being blamed on just the Republicans. And if they don't start solving problems, they are going to get blamed for it, and they should be solving problems. And so they are worried that they'll actually have to do something because, what do you make more money off of, right? Curing cancer or researching to cure cancer? Well, you make more money off researching it. If you cure it, you can't make any more money off researching it. So if they actually start solving problems, they can't get reelected because you won't be electing them in to solve the problems. We all know this is the game they play. And so they only have things to lose if they replace the governor, and they're worried about that. And so that's the political reason not to impeach the governor. Now, the way they're trying to do this is they put together this impeachment committee. Now, I can tell you right now, if you look at the impeachment committee, you would initially look at it as what's called a kill committee. So it's a committee that was put together to kill the impeachment. That's why a lot of people thought it was DOA, dead on arrival. But then the governor started really, really messing up a lot more, and it became more and more untenable for you to just throw out the impeachment. So instead, what you're seeing now is you have this kill committee of 4 Republicans that now are being faced with a choice. Because impeachment's getting such a large amount of support, and, you know, you can go to Nemes's own words where he said he's very shocked the amount of support impeachment's getting. It's getting a 2-to-1 support ratio into their offices, which means we need to be continuing to put up that pressure. They're paying attention to it. They're seeing it. We need to keep that going. But they're shocked by the amount of support it's giving, and we need to make sure they understand what they're being faced with. So now this kill committee has a choice. Fall on the sword for leadership and Andy Beshear, and possibly you'll survive or not. That's their thought process. Their thought process is that, okay, we all know Andy did it, but if we don't impeach him, we won't have things to run on. I kind of covered already why the Republican leadership doesn't want it to happen. And so the leadership has told them, hey, kill this impeachment. And so they're now faced with the choice of saying, well, hold on though. We're now getting so much support for impeachment that if we kill it, we feel like we're not going to have our office anymore, our positions anymore. We're going to lose, which is true. You probably will. And, you know, I believe, and once again, this is all hearsay, theory, whatever. It doesn't, conspiracy, whatever you want to call it. Leadership probably went to them and said, oh, don't worry about it. We'll protect you. Now, the first thing I would say about leadership protecting you, leadership can't even stop county parties from voting to censure Mitch McConnell. How can they protect you? If I'm on that committee, I realize these are my choices. I can either piss off leadership, which doesn't get me reelected anyways. Yeah, they might get support behind me and money behind me and everything else, but at the end of the day, the people actually vote for me, and people are very motivated. This is a weird year for Frankfurt. They've never seen this amount of confrontational politics in their lives. And what's the problem is we haven't dropped anybody yet. And what I mean by that is we haven't taken out a bunch of people out of office for not doing what they're being told to do through the confrontation of their constituents. And so once that starts to happen, they'll respond better to it, because right now they don't really know how to respond, and they're telling themselves, oh, this is just like always. It's just a bunch of hot air. These people come out, they throw a fit, everything else, but they never actually do anything. They never actually take us down. So instead, what if I'm on the committee, though I realized very quickly I had a historic petition drop, most amount of petitions ever dropped off in the state of Kentucky. I see that I'm getting a 2-to-1 ratio of calls for impeachment. I'm seeing the leadership cannot even protect Mitch McConnell from being censured by his own party, county parties, and his own state. I'm seeing that the governor keeps making it harder for me to pretend like it's just good faith air when he keeps being a jerk and he keeps slapping us around. Governor Beshear is creating the narrative for us that the Republicans have no backbone if they don't move it forward. So right now, if I'm the impeachment committee, I realize that I have a couple choices. I can fall on the sword for Andy Beshear and hope that the establishment can save me, or I can move it forward saying, hey, I recognize that there's groups of people out there now that are organized that are for liberty. I recognize there's groups of people out there that were able to get together and print off 240,000 signatures, deliver them to us, or are able to get thousands of calls and emails a day in about impeaching this guy. And what I realize is if there is a group of people out there that believe enough that way that they can remove 4 people out of office. So if I'm on the committee, I move it forward and I turn around and I say to leadership, if you want it killed, you kill it in the House where at least there'll be 50 targets, because right now there's 4. That's assuming all 4 of us vote against it. If 2 of them vote for it and 2 of them vote against it, that's 2. If 3 of them vote for it and 1 of them vote against it, because we all know the 3 Democrats are guaranteed to vote against it, so we need all 4 Republicans to vote for it. If 3 of them vote for it and 1 of them vote against it, or all 4 of them, we know that this group out there of individuals, of like-minded individuals, of supporters, of callers, of everything else can drop a House rep. And what I mean by that is remove them from office, can remove 1 or 2 or 3 in 2022 at least from office. I know they are able to do that. You can kill it yourself. I'm not losing my job by not listening to people, and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do and what's right. I'm going to vote for the guy to be moved forward to impeachment. And I'm sorry, leadership, if you want it ruined, you got to figure out how to do it on the House floor where you can create 50 targets, because I know you can't protect me, because they can't. They cannot protect you. They can't do it, because I promise you this much. Right now, if impeachment fails, I am personally on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars. Do I have that money? No, not really. No, but that's okay. I'll risk it all to just hold this guy accountable. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, if you're going to take everything from me anyways, what do I have left to lose, right? But I can promise you this much. Whatever I have to pay, I will raise, I will work, I will donate my labor, whatever, 3-fold times that to get these people out of office. I can promise you that. And I can promise you there's hundreds of other people who also feel the same way, that will donate and that will volunteer, and they will do everything they can to remove you guys from office. Because here's the bottom line. If you're those 4 on that impeachment committee and you don't vote to move forward impeachment, every single mistake, and we know there's going to be a lot more, every impropriety, every law broken, everything else that Governor Beshear does from March 30th until January of 2022 will be the impeachment committee's fault. It will be all their fault. See, it's not Beshear's fault anymore, because the impeachment committee would have had the opportunity to take him out. It'd be the impeachment committee's fault. And that's what they're going to be attacked for. And that's what they're going to be taken down for. So if I'm on that committee, I'm moving it forward just so I don't have to deal with the fight of 2022, the primary fight of my life, where I'm going to be so damaged, I might not even win in the general if I'm one of them. The establishment cannot protect you. And I tell you this much, we are dumb enough that we don't care if a Democrat wins, because we take you out and we put in somebody who doesn't win, or we drain your war fund, your war chest, to the point that you can't afford to even run in the general, because you literally don't have money left, because we've drained you in the primary fight. We don't care if a Democrat ends up in there to get rid of you. Because like I said, I would rather have a Democrat in there for 2 years that then I can replace with a Republican that actually stands by the platform of the Republican Party than to have you in there for an undetermined amount of time, because you won't stand up and fight for a single thing. You don't have a principle. You don't have a backbone. I don't need you in there. I would rather have an opportunity to put somebody else in there. And that's my personal stance on it. Now, just kind of wrap it up, guys, as we kind of hit into it. You'll see I have a link tree that I've been posting on some things. Follow that link tree. Sign up for the petitions. There's a petition to impeach Beshear. Fill that out. There's a petition to reopen Kentucky. So HB1's been put on hold by a judge that says, hey, we're going to fight back. We're going to follow HB1, whether it's approved or not, because it's a legally passed law. Sign that, share it around. We want to get several thousand people signed up on it, basically to make it untenable for a judge, the governor, or anybody else to try to keep enforcing these laws, because there's so many people against it. There's so many people being, disobedient, you could call it, right? There's so much civil disobedience going on that you literally can't, it's like whack-a-mole. You can't take them all out. Fill those out. Donate if you can to the impeachment costs. As I said, we've got tens of thousands of dollars into it. It's not a big deal. There's 3 of us who are splitting the cost right now. We're doing the best we can to help raise it. We honestly went into this not really knowing how it's going to turn out. We're taking a shot if we can. to take down a king. And, we may fail, but we may also, but I don't think we have failed, because at this point we've exposed Bashir for what he is to all of Kentucky. And additionally, we will have been exposing some of these rhinos out there, some of these people who have no backbone, to exactly who they are to their constituents. And I think that is definitely a worthwhile thing. So follow that, donate if you can, email. I listed out the bills and impeachment. Email your representatives. Email the impeachment committee. Call that phone number. Get your friends to call. Ask other people to call. That's what's really important. I don't know if I'll do an update tomorrow. Probably not, but I will do one then on Monday. Thank you guys so much. And share and tell people to watch it. We do these lives also on YouTube, and then they're available the next day or something. So if you want to share it out to people who aren't on this platform, you can do it at Brood. At our YouTube channel. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.